Until about 3 years ago, I lived with my lovely wife and our daughter, who had just started elementary school. We were not necessarily well off, but I was very happy and fulfilled every day, surrounded by my beloved family. One day, however, when I came home from work, my wife, Jennifer, said she had something important to tell me. I sat down at the seat across from Jennifer to listen to the details of what she had to say, feeling a little uneasy at the darkened expression on her face.
I know this is sudden, but will you divorce me?
What? What are you talking about? You must be joking.
I'm not joking.
Once I knew she was serious, I asked, "What's the reason? At least tell me why."
I've had enough of this cramped, shabby life. I'm going to leave you for a richer man, so I'm going to end it with you today.
What did you say? At this time, Jennifer had another man. Compared to me, who is a graduate of a Mickey Mouse University and would not be able to get a big promotion in the future, he seemed to be an elite. But that is if Jennifer is not a married woman with a husband and a child. Don't be silly. That would mean you were having an affair. How could you be allowed to abandon your family for a rich man you've been having an affair with?
Don't get me wrong. Who told you I was leaving Jane? I'll take her with me. I'm leaving you, and only you.
What the hell is that? I'm not going to let you do that. I'm not going to let you take Jane.
Say all you want while you still can. You don't stand a chance anyway.
It was very annoying, but Jennifer's words came true. After the trial, I was able to get a small amount of alimony from her, but the custody of my daughter, Jane, went to her mother. And with that, the new husband-to-be took everything away from me. I lost the greatest purpose of my life. For the next 3 years, it was as if I was in a dark place with no way out. The visits with my daughter, which were supposed to take place at least once a month, never took place due to their reasons, and the presents I had sent for her birthday and Christmas were sent back unwrapped. In this way, the parent-child relationship between me and Jane was completely demolished by the intent of a third party. And 3 years have passed since I last saw Jane. My daughter, who was in the first grade when I divorced Jennifer, is now in 4th grade. They say that kids these days grow up so fast, and I have aged a lot through all the hardships I have gone through. If I were to meet my daughter again now, we might not be able to recognize each other. Thinking of this, I felt so much pain in my heart that it was hard to even breathe. 3 years have passed since then, and the pain in my heart was not healed. Then one day, ding dong, ding dong. I was looking through a photo album of Jane's childhood, as I always do, when suddenly the doorbell rang loudly. Since that day, I have become so dark that I don't even answer my coworkers' invitations for a drink, and I don't think anyone would go out of their way to visit a gloomy middle-aged man's house. I opened the door without thinking, expecting a salesman or a religious recruiter, but there she was, my beloved daughter, whom I had longed to see for years, but had never been able to do so. Jane had become a big girl after 3 years, and there was hardly a trace of her childhood left, but strangely enough, I recognized her at a glance. I hadn't seen her for 3 years, but I instantly recognized her as my own daughter.
Jane! Jane! It's you, isn't it? Wow, you remember me.
Of course I do. I've never forgotten you for the past 3 years. I'm so glad I can finally meet you. I can't tell you how much I've missed you.
I'm sorry, Dad. I'm sorry I haven't been there for you.
Don't be sorry. It's not your fault. You came to see me like this. That's all your father needs to be happy. I wonder how long we cried at that moment. We cried and hugged each other, cried and rejoiced to see each other again, and cried again. And we did that for about 30 or 40 minutes. After a lot of hugging, and when we were both feeling a little more relaxed, I asked Jane a question about the box she was holding in her hand. Jane was carrying a wrapped box that looked about to be 10 inches on all sides. I held it for a moment when I invited Jane into the house, and it felt like it weighed at least 4 pounds. It was far too heavy for it to be a cake for her father, whom she hadn't seen in a long time. The contents of the box in my hand seemed to be some kind of porcelain. I heard a thump in the box when I tilted it.
This is an urn. Mom's urn.
What did you say?
It's an urn, and in it are Mom's bones.
What? That's a very dark joke, isn't it? You caught me by surprise, and I missed the moment to laugh. When I said this, Jane silently shook her head to the side, and her expression did not look like she was trying to make a joke to make the place more relaxed. I asked Jane to show me the contents of the package so I could verify. Can I open it?
Yeah, sure.
Well then, I'll take a look inside. I took the lid off the box, and inside was what looked like a cremation urn, which looked pretty cheap. I took a deep breath and took off the lid of the urn. Inside the urn was a pile of what appeared to be human bones. The fact that all of them were still in good shape indicated that the owner of the bones must have led a very healthy life. It would be somewhat absurd to say that this was actually Jennifer in such a state of disarray. Did someone order you to bring this to my house?
By my uncle.
By uncle, do you mean your mother's second husband? He told you to tell me that the bones were your mother's?
Yeah.
Did he say anything else?
He told me to tell you to take care of me now that Mom's dead.
Did he kick you out of the house when he said that?
Yeah.
It wasn't just your uncle who said so. There must be another person who kicked you out of the house. Your mother, right? I knew it. I'm sorry for asking you such a hard question. Don't worry about it. Your real father would never kick you out of the house.
Dad.
Okay, where do I start? Well, let's start with how I knew the bones didn't belong to Jennifer. Let me state up front that the human bones were unquestionably genuine. However, there are bones that were cremated more than a decade ago, probably belonging to her father-in-law who died when Jennifer was a student. The crematorium incinerators in use at around the time of his death were slow burning with low heat. In contrast, the kilns in use in crematoriums today have a high heat. The difference in temperature is most clearly seen in the shape of the unburned bones. Bones burned at low temperatures tend to remain clean, while those burned in high temperatures have a crumbling surface and the fine bones are burned away. With that said, many of the bones Jane brought were clean, and it was obvious that they had been burned in an old-style crematorium with a weak fire. The reason why I believe it was Jennifer or Jennifer's current husband who made Jane visit my house was because I saw Jane with my own eyes. The clothes Jane was wearing when she came to my house were short in both the top and bottom, and the yellowing and fraying of the fabric made it obvious that they had been bought many years ago. From this, I deduced that Jennifer and her current husband were in financial trouble for some reason and were planning to force Jane on me, and I was right. When I went to Jane's apartment with her, Jennifer was there as usual, but I had not expected that she and her current husband, who was supposed to be rich at the time of our divorce, would be living in such a shabby wooden apartment that was decades old. Hey, you're still alive after all.
Hey, Jane, why did you bring him here? I told you not to come back. I'm sorry.
Hey, don't get me wrong, I've decided to take Jane in, so you guys don't have to worry about supporting her. What? What's up with you? Did you find out everything that we were planning? Of course, it's obvious, you idiot. Shame on you for going all the way up to your parents' graves to have Jane bring the urn.
Well, it can't be helped. He was penniless after his embezzlement was found out. I didn't want to do such a punitive thing either.
Shut up. You're the one who talked me into it in the first place.
But I didn't tell you to embezzle money in a way that would get you caught. You should have done it without being noticed.
Okay, let's not have a boring quarrel now. Let's talk about the future.
You're just going to ask me to give you money in exchange for bringing up Jane, aren't you? But that won't be possible. We don't have a penny in our savings.
That's right. Take that kid home and get out of here. No, I don't expect any money, and I don't want to depend on you guys. I'm talking about you. You're going to jail, you know?
Jail?
Don't you know? Even if it's a relative, if you dig up a grave without permission, it's a crime. It's a crime to dig up a grave, you know.
What?
By the way, I've already spoken to the police, and I've left your father's bones with them as evidence. I think the police should be here any second now. After that, Jennifer and her husband were taken away by the police while Jane and I watched. It was their first offense, and they didn't go to jail because they didn't uncover someone else's grave, but Jennifer and her current husband's behavior was bad enough to turn Jennifer's relatives against her. Thanks to that, all her relatives were on my side, and Jane was able to live with me. That alone was enough to make me happy. Incidentally, Jennifer was cut off from her relatives after that, and they lost the support she had been receiving from their in-laws. So, for the rest of their lives, they will just have to pay back the money that Jennifer's current husband embezzled. This is what I call karmic retribution, or getting what one deserves. On the other hand, I'm currently enjoying life with my daughter for the first time in 3 years. Jane says it's much more fun than when she lived with her mother, too. I'm sure I'll have a lot of hardships as a single parent in the future, but it's nothing compared to the 3 years of loneliness I've endured. The time in my life, and Jane's life, that was frozen since then, finally started moving again after 3 years. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. We look forward to seeing you again. Please subscribe to